All right. Welcome and good morning to this wonderful session. I think we are running this session with uh, right after about 7 years now. The last session we've had was in 2015. So we'll try to make this a learning experience. So don't take this as a training. And I see a lot of diversified people here. And what I heard from Harsh and Subbu, you're amazing. You guys are really wonderful to work with. I will try to make this as simple as possible. So this is not astronomical. You have to listen to the session very carefully and make some notes. We'll try to have some a mock quiz, and we will also have at the end of the each session maybe after this session. Today is going to be completely more of an introduction. Uh, Let me mute. I think I have a background noise here. 1 second. I'm going to mute you all, and I will explain how to jump into the Q&A and when I will break. But let no. Okay. And you can always unmute if you, but then ask a question when I end the session. I will definitely announce if you have any questions, or we'll jump into the topics as quickly as possible. So we have about 5 days to complete, and I'll talk about it more once we get into the other slides. These slides are only for as an aid, pointers for me to talk about, but then you have to carefully listen to the my hope not a boring speech, but then we will try to go very slow and try to understand the IT recruitment staffing industry in the US. All right, welcome once again. Let's get started here. So before we jump into, once again, welcome back to, I wish a bright career with high IT people. I know some of you have some experience, some of you are completely freshers. But then this is a process we have developed with the last 10 years at this company, but which I have been following last 20 years, which works. There might be some advancements in terms of technology, but the process remains the same. So let's get started. Our company was established in 2010. It's a little over 10 years now. In the US, we are registered in Washington, D.C., the federal capital of the US. Federal is nothing but the central government. It's called federal government in the US, just like the central government in India. DC stands for District of Columbia. It's like a union territory in India, like Goa. Washington, D.C. is a city and a state by itself, pretty small, 30 minutes to 40 minutes from one corner to another corner, you're done. That's where the president and the government is sitting, the Capitol Hill. We, right now, we have locations or operations in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, of course, India and Bangladesh. Now we are heading to set up another operations in the United Kingdom, England, and we have a few group of companies. So we are about 200 consultants. I'll come to consultants. Don't get confused. These are people who are working at the client sites or working for clients. About 200 people working on our billing, including IT, non-IT, etc., etc. And then we right now have about 50 plus. I think your number should add up, which includes, our internal staff working in the US, working in India, Bangladesh, other countries like Canada, UK, etc. We provide temporary and permanent IT staffing and consulting services. Very simple. We pick a person who's looking for a job. We have a job with a client. Take it very simple. We have a job with a client comes with a job, they need a programmer, and we match candidates to the job requirement. A programmer can be multiple disciplines, a lot of technologies involved. We will get there in the advanced sessions, but for now, this is as simple as that. So we match candidates based on the client requisition, client requirement. So you need to understand there are a lot of synonyms. There's a lingo which goes along with this, which I would be using during the entire session. So keep in mind when you have a new term that I use here, please make a note. Have that pen and paper. So we will use words like consultants, contractors, more or less these are the same. So this is where you would be um, exposed in the market to when you talk to other people, when you talk to candidates. Again, I use the word candidate, which is again a consultant. When you talk to candidates, you probably be exposed to different types of terms you need to be engaged with or proficient with. Okay, now, all right, quick intro on me. I know this is a little boring. I have in the US, this 20 years is in the US. Unlike Subbu, I don't want to say I'm 30 years of experience, make myself old. And I have a background in computer science, uh, plus the 20 years of experience in IT and digital marketing, immigration, recruitment, account management. So finally, and unfortunately, I became the CEO of this company. And I'm training here. I have been training people since 2002. In fact, we were one of the first and the oldest to start a recruitment process in India before a lot of major companies have set up their foot. So I have seen the change since 2002. This is 2021, almost 20 years now. And the concepts have not changed. There is a severe competition. You are, if I was working with 500 people in 2001, 2002, now we are working with 50,000 people in the year 2021. But as long as you learn, as long as you are able to expose yourself, not do any outside learning process when we are doing this, don't go into forums, don't ask people, hey, I'm having a training. If you have a friend or a colleague who's working a similar job, don't reach out to them. Please reach out to me. Whoever your trainer is, we are going to have a bunch of trainers here, myself, Kathleen, and possibly Ranjit, and a couple of other senior members here who are going to train you. So please ask them your questions, write them down. Do not try to research. It only causes confusion, nothing else. I'm not saying they're not competent. They might be, but then it will add up to the confusion. We are here to answer. The more questions gives us more energy to make this training a better experience for all of us. So let's not call this training, let's call this learning. Everyone's learning. I'm learning too. I'm learning new things. After I opened up today, after about 7 years, I've seen some drift. I see some changes. So we'll try to address those changes as well in our learning and our training sessions for the next 5 days. Okay. So what are the goals? Goals of our training for you to obtain knowledge on US IT staffing market and types of visas, which is very important in the US. Types of people with visas, or the visa work permits. In other words, everyone should have a work permit in this country to work. Then taxes. Taxes are pretty complicated in the US, unfortunately, as opposed to what it is in India. Indian payroll, employment, taxes are pretty straightforward. It's a little chaotic in the US based on different states, as each state has its own regulations. At some point, you're not required to be very knowledgeable about how it works, but then when you're talking to candidates, that's what we're gonna do. We are talking to candidates. So candidates might ask you these astronomical questions. So we expect that you have knowledge on the visas, taxes. When I say visas, once again, work permit. Everyone must have a work permit. Keep this in mind, rule of the thumb. Either way or, they must have a work permit for us to work for them. They don't have a work permit, future sponsorships, not really. And I do have, Harsh, I do have participants from another company. We're just helping another company's recruiters, one of my friends' companies. They might join, so we'll help them as well.
Sure.
This learning and training process. Now, so knowledge on the staffing market, these are our goals once again: types of visas, work permits, taxes, sourcing, recruitment, and sales. So there's a little balance between recruitment and sales. We will get there. So for now, don't get confused. And negotiation skills. This is where Kathleen will come into picture. Negotiation with candidates, consultants, or the job seekers. So these are all one and the same. We might use different language depending on how others are communicating. It's just like you have a legal name, you might have a nickname or a pet name. It's the same thing. These are synonyms. So, and then we have hands-on. Once we are able to complete these sessions, training sessions this week, then we'll jump into hands-on. Next week, you will be working with other senior members. Since we have most of them sitting in other locations like Hyderabad, we try to see if you can patch up on a Google Meet, watch them searching, which is a part of the sourcing exercise, and recruitment, which involves negotiation skills, talking to candidates, getting the resumes ready, sourcing, finding, searching those resumes, matching resumes on the internet, and then go live after a week or two. We expect that by the 15th of April, in about 2 weeks, you should be sourcing, just finding resumes, and then actually get into the recruitment process. I'm still not done with this first topic, so the section. I will definitely break for Q&A. We are still not there, but if you have any question, please feel free to ask. The more you ask, the more I get motivated. So let's ask relevant questions. Don't ask me about, something, some kind of a movie or something happens in the US or COVID-19. We won't get there. Let's keep it limited to, and don't ask me how you can find a girlfriend. I won't be able to answer that. Maybe Harsh is better with that, so you can ask him. So let's stick to the topic, and please write down your questions. When I open the floor, we will definitely run through those questions. And remember, once you are done with each topic, each section, we're going to give you access to an online website where you will take a quiz. We really want to know how best you understood. I hope you had a chance to review Higher IT People website. Although it is like French, it probably gives you a little idea of what we do here. All right, let me jump into the next slide. Okay, so at the end of this session today, training day 1, we'll try to squeeze this in as under 2 hours, although I said 3 hours. I know it'll be too much for day 1. And we'll try to complete this. And remember, I'm going back to slide number 1. I'm not going to end this here. I'm going to slide number 1, going back to slide number 1, run through the whole process once again. So we have not missed anything, which would probably come up after the Q&A session. So it's going to be a repeat today. Now, at the end of this session, we are going to be learning about the United States. I know you guys have been doing some research. Most importantly, the time zones and what is the job market and what is this whole recruitment process is about, and why it sounds so complicated so far in the last 5-10 minutes. What is that we are trying to accomplish? And so we'll try to get exposed, understand the entire process from scratch, from the ground zero. We will advance ourselves in the next 2 weeks. I would like to create the finest. This approach of training, as we have seen a lot of courses on the internet or the classroom trainings, this is completely a practical mechanism. I have seen people have sent me a lot of course material. I was not really impressed, because when you are in the water, you should know how to drown, and when you drown, then you should know how to get out. So this is more practical in nature, in terms of trying to put our experience together and make it more easy, learner friendly for you to succeed in your career. Okay, I'll try to make this very quick. You can do your own research. USA, this was population in 2009. It's probably about 315, 320 million. That's the estimated population of the US, which includes the Americans, immigrants mostly from India and China and Mexico. Most IT workers, 70% come from India. 30% come from other countries like China, Mexico's, Canada's, and even if they're coming from Canada, they're still Indians. They're coming from Australia, they're still Indians. So in other words, including top CEOs like Google's, Microsoft's, and many other like Coca-Cola's, the top CEOs and CTOs are again of the Indian origin or Indian descent. So keep that in mind. And you all know the vice president is also of Indian descent, Madam Kamala Harris. So this is about, and I'm sure you guys know the new president, President Joe Biden, who took over after Trump. Right now, we're still sailing through the COVID pandemic situation in the US, as in India, and about 500,000 have perished. Very sad to know. Now, the US has, the capital is Washington, D.C. We discussed about this. And the bordering countries are Canada and Mexico. US have 50 states plus. When I say plus, they could be states like Puerto Rico, who are not actually, they are owned by the US, but the regulations are a little different. So we will not get there. We may not be working with candidates in places like Puerto Rico and other islands. And a flight from coast to coast for the major cities from New York to California takes about 6 hours. There is a huge time zone difference, which we don't have in India. But then, Yash, somebody's here. Okay. Welcome, Yash. As I said, we have people from another company, Digi Max or something, Digi Informix. So they're also getting trained. And just like India, United States has federal government, which is again central government in India. In the US, it's called federal. It's just the lingo, the language is different. The US has a president. It's also a democracy. India is also a democracy. It's a little different. The prime minister takes care of the country. Here, the president takes care of the country. That's the most powerful man in the country. And US is more stringent or more organized in terms of statewide rules and regulations. Just like in India, they have state governments. The employment laws are governed by federal government, and the state governments. Unlike in India taxes just go to, I think, central government, the TDS, tax deducted at source. So we have a similar concept which we will be covering maybe tomorrow. That will be our next session. So this is the cap about the US. There is we have different weather conditions in the east, Midwest, then the west, then the north and south. It's pretty hot at places like California, Arizona, Texas. It's pretty cold in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, these type of states in the east. So when you begin to work, I'll give you a piece of golden advice. It is a golden advice. Make sure you know what is happening in the country, what is the weather. We are getting into the time zone. I'll definitely address this. So you need to know what's going on. Do that 5 minute or 10-minute reading about the job market. Get some kind of alerts from the one of the apps that I use on the cell phone is called Flipboard. Then it'll give you the ability to select what you would like to see and which countries you are interested in. I have a Flipboard on my phone. I have job news, I have daily news, weather, which is very important if you're talking to people, if you're talking to somebody in California, to localize with candidates. You need to know, hey, today is I see that California is cold. Texas had snowstorm. Hey, hi, how you guys are doing? So it gives them more, not get too personal with candidates. We are not talking about their personal life. Rule number one and rule number 10, never get personal with candidates. Don't ask them about, we will get there. But as a part of the introduction, these are very important items before you get into your action, your real-time work. Never get personal with any candidates in the US. You can ask about weather, you can ask about COVID. Don't ask them about if they've taken the COVID shot, but you can ask about, are they, doing COVID shots in their city? So you can ask them about weather. Never get personal. Hey, who's your brother? Who's your mother? Who's your sister? This is very, very important. You can ask them about their education because the job may require. Never ask them on the phone about their age. Job may require that they have to submit proof of date of birth, which is a different aspect. Asking people personal questions will annoy them, and specifically with Americans, you should never do that. All right, let's jump into the next slide here. Time zones. Harsh will help you with this. I would like to see all the computers we are in the Eastern time zone. Right now, we are in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, which will change during, I think, March to Eastern Daylight Saving Zone. So again, there is an issue with this time zone being changed from, pushing 1 hour behind, 1 hour after, having all these time zones. This is another thing which changes every year. So your computer, or you install a clock. I have this clock, on my cell phone, which has different time zones. I have India, I have the US, I have California. So I have an idea of, I'm sure, the office will have those regular clocks on the wall, which will show you. But then since you are going to be serving the US market during the local time zones, right now it's about morning 10:30 or whatever for me, 10:45. So you're in the morning, so you would say good morning. You're not going to come to office and say good night. So keep that in mind. So you have to get accustomed to, hey, I am in the US. You're not sitting in India and working. You should have that feeling in your head that you are working in the US itself, not sitting in Gandhinagar. Now, there are about major 4 time zones, Eastern time, where we are in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey. And there's a Central time. An example could be, I think, Chicago. Harsh, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm always confused with this myself. And then there is an MST. PST, Pacific time, is, California. And then there are 2 or 3 more time zones like Hawaii, other states, about 6 time zones altogether, unfortunately. But then we are usually stuck to revolving around EST, CST, and PST. Once you start working, you will understand why it is important when you are talking to candidates. You don't want to call somebody in California at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is right now 10:30. Um, Even at 10 o'clock in the morning, California is still 7. Eastern time zone 10, EST 10 p.m. is only 7 a.m. You don't want to call people at 7. So you need to be careful. You can email people 24 by 7. So you need to be a little versed with, if you see a candidate, the job is in, this is what we normally do. The job is in California. We are looking for candidates in California, obviously, right? So at that point, you want to see, hey, is it wise to call this guy, call this candidate, call this consultant, call this job seeker at this point of time? It's only 6:30 or 7 in the morning. So you need to wait. You don't want to drive them crazy by calling them, waking them up from their morning sleep. I would like to take a break here right after this. Open up the floor for any questions so far. I'm going to unmute everyone. And let's see if you guys have, I'm sure you may not have any based on my experience. How do I unmute? 1 second. All right. Let's get back. I'd like to do a quick recap on what we have done so far. Real quick. We are established about 11 years ago in the US with offices in Canada, Mexico, India, Bangladesh, and upcoming UK. We have 200 people working for clients on various projects. They might be working at different locations at client sites, and we do have about 50 plus people working internally, including India, Bangladesh, US, Canada. And we provide temporary and permanent staffing. We will get there, as I said before, to clients nationwide. I don't want to talk about myself once again here. And our goals are to learn about the US staffing market, the types of visas, taxes, sourcing, recruitment, and sales, negotiation skills, hands-on, and go live in a couple of weeks. Once again, welcome back to Higher IT People. We spoke about the US. About 320 million population, 70% of the US, the IT workers, foreign IT workers, I need to assert that, foreign IT workers are from India. There are a lot of American workers, but Indians do cater to a large economy here in terms of the IT market. And US has about 50 states. Time from coast to coast is 6 hours. I'm only talking about New York to California. Then there might be Hawaii, other places, but this is in general. We have major 4 time zones: Eastern, Central, Pacific, and Mountain. This is where we start. Now let's jump into the job industry. Now we are more or less be working in a contractual staffing model. So we are providing staffing services. In other words, we are providing labor services, employment services to clients. To make it 1, 2, 3, for example, Microsoft is looking for, needs a programmer. to work on a temporary project, which can range from a month to 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. Even if it's 5 years, sometimes there are project based. They have a project. For example, they're building a web application, a mobile application, and they need 50 people for or 100 people for their project, and they only need temporary people most of the time. I will still come into full times. Temporary people, they will reach out to companies like us. Hey, I'm doing a project for about 6 months. We need 50 programmers. We need 50 developers. And they will reach out to companies like us. We understand their job requirement, what is that they're trying to fill, and it is our job to go find matching people, candidates who have skills, experience as required by the client, and we start sourcing them. We start recruiting them. This is as simple as that. This is not astronomical. This is not rocket science. This is as simple as somebody needs a person, a human resource. We are finding them in the market. Then there are a lot of processes or the nitty-gritties that circle around how we do this. That's where it gets a little confusing. But then if you understand the source, the fundamental of the process, it is going to be a lot easier. Everything else looks complicated sometimes, but then when I said visas, when I said taxes, it looks a little complication. But then, look at yourself. You have, for people who are freshers or people who already have experience, what we are talking about the process. If Hirsch, for example, Hirsch has hired you, and obviously they ask for a PAN card or something else, Aadhaar card, and then they need a bank account. So these are something revolving around taxes. If Harsh had to hire somebody from a neighboring country like a Bangladesh or Pakistan, now these are people. Now there is an extra step of what we were talking about, work permits. So somebody coming from Bangladesh to work in India, they need to have a work permit in India. Likewise, if somebody is coming from India to work in the US, they need a work permit. As simple as that. So let's try to make it very simple. Try to understand what I'm trying to explain. Harsha, am I too fast, or am I audible, clear?
You're audible and going at a good pace.
Very good. Thank you. All right. So the right after COVID, with whatever happened with the pandemic, the IT job market is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're talking about in 2021 and 22, based on the numbers, the reports from top surveys, top magazines here, the national IT journals, we are looking at a $200 billion industry. That is going to be, a billion is about 1,000 million. So you calculate the numbers. We're talking about 200 billion plus. This is only the contract market. We're not talking about companies hiring like Amazon, like Microsoft or IBM's hiring on their own, on their roles as a full-time employee. We are only talking the whole session, 95% of the time, we are going to be circling around contracting model. We provide 95% of our services are dedicated to sending somebody as a contractor for a temporary, for a temp project, not for someone who is going to be permanently employed with them, where we just, find them a job and forget it. So 95%, keep this in mind. It's also called contingency talent acquisition. So on a contingency basis, nothing but a contract with some kind of a rule. Hey, they will work for 3 months, 6 months is a contingency. So we are doing a contingency Kevin, I don't know who Kevin is, but then you've been going out and coming back in. I have a problem. I'm getting disturbed. Please make sure you don't leave. I don't know if you're a part of IRIT people or somewhere else, but then, please don't leave the session. It's disturbing my flow here. Thank you. So now the 100, 200 billion IT job market is further expanding with all these, now there are new jobs. Healthcare has become a very, very important matter in this. After the pandemic, there are new projects and there are more jobs, the more IT projects. So we have something to build on. That's why we are attracting, higher IT people is attracting training like today, freshers. We're also coming up with another unit near shore, close to the US, one of the South American countries, which will be running another training very soon. So we are trying to improvise on our back end force, recruitment force, workforce to cater to this ever growing, very bright, very strong, multi-billion IT industry. So you are going to be supporting a large system. You are going to be an integral part of the large, ever-growing IT market, and there is a lot of potential to learn. You are getting exposed to high-level IT workers. You are going to be working with recruiting personnel who have top college degrees, who have masters in education at least. Most of them have master's degrees, and then they have put in a lot of experience. So you are talking to subject matter experts. You're not just recruiting some labor for some Middle East or some Saudi Arabian countries. So this is more in terms of very high level, very interesting. Trust me, it's very interesting to talk to people. When I say talk to people, I crave for, can I talk to 50 candidates today? How is that I can do this? And how can I enhance my skills by talking to 50 people? Imagine you spoke to 50 people in a day. What is that you're acquiring? The wealth of knowledge that these people have. So when you begin working, keep that in mind. Don't go home until you have spoken to 50 people in a day. You call those 50 people. It's not emails, it's not WhatsApp, it's not chat. It is picking that phone and talking to those 50 people, and the success is yours. People often fail by not communicating, not having the dialogue with candidates. I have seen a lot of people in my career. I've trained hundreds and hundreds in the last 17, 18 years. Rule number one, you have to communicate. You're not talking to a robot that you are sending an email, you're talking to a human. So keep in mind, communication is the key. Communication is success. Pick up that phone, talk to them every day. We want to see 20, 30, 50, 100 calls. I've seen a guy, I was like, you're just amazing. You're calling, you made 100 calls today? Wow. This has to be your attitude. More than this training, more than what we are doing today and tomorrow, next 1 or 2 weeks, the market, the field will teach you. Candidates will teach you, because these are all educated people. These are all experienced people. They're in the high-tech industry. And once you follow this process within the, today you might have started with a small pay, and this is the only industry where you will develop skills by yourself, and you can plan, what is that I want to earn? How do I enhance my career? And there is an unlimited potential of earning. We're not doing this for money. We're not doing any charity or some kind of a community service, but then you are the best judge to your career. How many, you are, to put it very simple, Your career, your earning potential is directly proportional to how many candidates you are calling, talking on a daily basis, not emailing and chatting on WhatsApp. Keep that in mind. We spend 3 hours talking to a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes with a candidate, you would make this very rewarding for yourself. There's a reason I'm stressing on this, because most of the recruiters often fail but not establishing that communication one-on-one with candidates. Calling them each day, and what we call is recycling, just like, I make friends to them for the job purpose, not personally. I call them again after a week. I keep in touch with kids. This is the very simple secret of any, most of people that I've trained in the past, now they're vice presidents, their success is very simple, is, they communicate. You have free wealth of knowledge that you can acquire from these candidates. This is very, very important. And I'm stressing this, I'm stretching this again. The reason is communication is the key. Recruiters are more or less like salespeople. It's the same concept. In our business, both clients and our candidates, the so-called consultants or the job seekers, both are customers. We value them because we need, it's a double-edged sword. We need both the edges and keep both of them happy, both the client and our consultants. So I call them, both of them, as customers. So keep in mind, being very polite, not being rude, being very patient with candidates is the stairway to success. If these things are met, you will be successful, and in no time. I have seen people who started making 15,000 rupees a month, and then quickly jumped into 2 lakh rupees a month within about a year. I have seen people, I have live examples, I have worked with wonderful people, I have learned with them. As I said, this is not training. I have learned with them, and today I go back to them, ask them, hey, now we are in action on the field. What is that I can learn from you? So keep that in mind. All right, let's jump into the next topic here. So not that, this is a continuation to this same topic. So this is a search pattern in terms of, we'll not totally focus on this. This is going to be an upcoming session, but then different job types: graphic designers, data analysts, software engineers. I don't know if somebody's Harsh, I don't know who's Kevin. I had to, ignore this person now. I have already warned.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I won't be able to, it's
Yeah,
disturbing when people
no,
are.
that's fine. Then I'll train him tomorrow.
Okay. So I just get disconnected. You understand, right? Nothing else. I don't want to be, it's 10 people coming in, logging, I want to join again. It's a
No,
little.
he's supposed to join from first. So I asked him if he's at home. So I asked him to join from home. So I don't know why he's logging in and off. But anyway, I'll try to bring him to pace.
No problem. Okay, so the multi-billion-dollar IT job market has several. There are so many skills, so many technologies, but then there is a base job, which is like a graphic designer. Graphic designer again have different types of skills, different types of technologies. We will get there in the upcoming sessions when we talk about the job titles, technologies, skills, so on and so forth. But for now, this is about what happens in an IT project, the IT departments, what types of people. But this is just an idea. You can Google yourself. Google is handy. You can Google what are the top job titles, what is trending. You can find these reports on websites like dice.com and indeed.com, Indeed, indeed.com, which collects jobs from all company websites across the country, not just in the US. They're in India, they're worldwide. So if you posted a job on our website, they collect data. Based on that, they create reports, data of what's happening in the market. Okay, now let's get into, I have given some kind of an intro on what we do in the past, but then to make it once again clear, in simple terms, once again, all we do, although it sounds so complicated, we have a website, there's a lot of data there, we have Facebook, so a lot of things, but then in a nutshell, we recruit and place IT consultants with clients. Very simple. Find a candidate who's looking for a job, have a client who needs a candidate to work on their projects. We are working in between, and in other words, we are an agent that's supporting this process. Okay. And an intermediary agent where we are like a bridge between the client and the candidate. We come in between, we help them. Once again, a client has a job, often referred to a requisition, often referred to a requirement, often referred to a job. Client has a job, client has a requisition, client has a requirement, client has an engagement. So these are different types of languages, terms that are used, which is a synonym of a job inside the industry. So the job can be a requirement, a requisition, an engagement, and there are many other words, job description, JD. So these are all, a client has a job and they have come to hire IT people and requested, hey, I need a programmer, I need a developer. Now we'll get this a little more, we'll push it a little bit. Now the client has a project which is being run in a technology called Java, open source programming language. The client is asking for, hey, I need 10 Java developers. Not just a developer now, then from Java, then it have its subcategories, more skills, more and more and more, but it's a notion out there. An experienced candidate may have been exposed to many languages, databases, tools, and skills, writing, analysis, research. So there are a lot of things which adds up to their experience. So in other words, a candidate with about 10 years of experience is probably exposed to hundreds of technologies. Just give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so once again, Hire IT People is a staffing company. In the US, we are often referred to as a consulting company. What is consulting? Because our people are going on the candidates that you recruit, the candidates that you're going to recruit tomorrow will be providing consulting services, technical consulting services to clients. Very simple. They have a project, they need help. So they're doing consulting services in terms of giving them advice sometimes on how to complete this project and how to complete this project, work as a consultant for 6 months, a year. As I said before, 95% of the time, we are going to be working on a temporary contractual jobs. So the candidate will not be an employee of the client. We send them over, they work with the client for 6 months, 8 months, we pay them. Just like if you're constructing a house, I'm sure most of you have done it. You have a contractor. It's a 6-month project or a year project to it should, usually I know in India it's, they say 6 months, it'll take 6 years. That's a different story unless things have changed. But then you hire a contractor. Hey, I'm building a house. So in this case, the contractor, for example, you have hired Modi Constructions to do the job. The Modi Constructions is nothing but hire IT people, and you are the client. Now, Modi Constructions will have 20 people, labor, blah, 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 for a project for a year. You're not employing them. You are paying Modi Constructions. Modi Constructions is paying them. You are paying, say, $100 or 100 rupees per hour to Modi Constructions. Modi Construction will eventually pay them after their cut, after their markup. Very simple. This is what we exactly do at Hire IT People on a different level, serving the US market, which has its own regulations, laws, and rules, work permits, taxes, and the high-level technology industry that we are working with, where we are getting exposed to not just learning about cement and brick. Now we are learning about Java. We are learning about ERPs, enterprise resource planning softwares, programming languages. We are not learning a programming language. We are just trying to understand what is Java. When I say database, SQL, what is SQL Server? Is a database. What is an ERP like SAP? These are different things. If you build an expensive house, now you are getting, you're learning a new thing. Hey, I want to install a sauna. I want to dig a swimming pool. So it's the same thing. It's similar to what we do in our daily lives. We are going to do this during our sourcing and recruitment efforts for the job requisitions, job descriptions, requirements, or the jobs. It's the same thing. Once again, it's the same thing. To find those consultants. Most of the time, they are referred to as consultants, IT consultants, who are nothing but candidates, who are nothing but job seekers, who could be something else, personnel. So don't get confused with this lingo. Okay, let's jump into the next topic. Okay, I just covered this. Once again, who are these IT consultants? The lingo. These are people who provide technical services on site. Right now, everything is remote. So there was no remote, not really much of remote in 2015 when I did this, I think, slideshow. But then, maybe I've seen the future. This could be remote in the future due to pandemic, like what we have today, deadly. So these people may provide technical services, programming services, development services, testing, quality assurance. It is a number of different services based on their job requirement, which is tied into their SDLC, software development lifecycle. If you have had computer science education, I'm sure most of these days everyone has these subjects in their college, exposed to the software development lifecycle, the whole entire lifecycle from inception to the end to production. A lot of parameters, there are a lot of processes, there are a lot of departments based on the size of the project that is involved. As a simple example, if you have to develop a website, just to look at one of the logos here on one of your Zoom participants, Viplav, where I see there are colors involved. Somebody has to but they have used a software to create that logo or something. So which involved a process, which may not be one person sometimes. If that could be a website, if Viplav was, making a website, the website needs front-end design. Then, if there is any functionality that, you need to store user data, it has back-end databases. Then if you have to charge money for people like a membership. So this is like a project where you are exposed. And finally, if the software, your website is, actually working properly. So this is nothing but a software development life cycle, SDLC, what we typically call, and the project members who are nothing but our consultants that will be working on this project. Let's say they're building a COVID-19 database of how many people infected in, say, New Jersey, and which obviously needs, could be customer facing. It could be a mobile app where I go in and put in my information. They've already done these type of projects. They're still doing those. So which needs different types of people with different skills to produce that kind of an app or a software. So this is where we are looking for all these types of consultants, resources, or contractors, or employees, or subcontractors, talent, etc., etc. This is the general lingo in the market. You might hear new words, so don't get confused. Usually these are consultants. Somebody calls me and says, hey, you have a resource for Java? Oh, okay, I do. They're asking for a consultant. It depends on different companies with their sets of standards, languages that they have built into their system. So don't get confused. And remember one thing, as I said, this PowerPoint is only going to be for my knowledge to show you the bullet points. I will repost this video, this recording, so you will still have the ability to rewind and listen to this once again, because there's going to be a quiz for every session. So for the introduction, mostly introduction today, we will definitely have a quiz, maybe a mock session or a group discussion with Hirsch. I'll figure this out with Subbu and Hirsch, what they'd like to do, what is easier. Then I really want you to be the best. Understand, you are in a team of experienced people here. And I just want to make sure there is no stone which is unturned, and you're not just a raw diamond. You come out like a finished, polished diamond. And I've heard from, once again, the people that they have hired now, for people who are sitting on this session, the learning session. I've heard about you people. You guys are really amazing. You need to rewind this video, and then each point come back with, if we have to extend this for another 2 or 3 days, we are not in a rush. We don't want to squeeze this out. We will continue to train. Once you are the best, that's where you're going on the field. This is our goal. I want to make sure I have the finest that are working in the market. We want to tell the market, hey, people that come from higher IT people, this was proven before. People who are trained at higher IT people are the best. They know what they do. They're straightforward. They're knowledgeable. This is the goal. Okay. Now, when we were talking about the 95% contract and the 5% full-time, you might have, just give me 1 second. Okay. Now, we were talking about a contractor versus full-time. I'm sure, it gets a little, I'll try to, give different examples to make sure we understand what is a contract and what is a full-time and why it's important at our company. Based on the outcome of the training, both based on your learning abilities and what you have learned at the end of the training. We are going to be dividing people to be working in different areas of expertise. You might be exposed to, you might be assigned to working on contractual jobs where we recruit candidates or the consultants or the resources or the talent for temporary contractual positions with our clients, 95%. And there's a second set of people who might be finding candidates for full-time positions, which means you have, I'll go back to the same example of the Modi constructions. Now when you go to Modi constructions and say, hey, I have large properties in 5 properties. I want to have somebody working with us for the next 5 years who can do plumbing, who can do electric work, whatever. I don't want to pay you. I want him to be my own employee. And I'll give you a fee. You send me the candidate to work with me full time. Likewise, Microsoft or some other company might come and say, no, this is going to be a long-term project. We are not looking for any contractual worker. We want to just have them on our employment or our payroll. There's a language lingo that will come in, which is circling around taxes. My later next sessions, we'll see if we can cover that today. But I really don't like to dump too much. So a contractor, he is a person, an IT consultant, in other words, who works for a temporary project need, who's not an employee of the client. They have no responsibility to hire them on their payroll and provide benefits. To back up a little bit, which I wanted to cover, but then I wanted you to understand what is a contractor. The contractual market exists in the US for a great reason. When they hire employees, people on their payroll as their full-time employee, they get into the nonsense of providing benefits, providing like health insurance, providing paid time off, sick days, and other benefits, retirement benefits, performance reviews. They want to keep themselves. That's why the contractual market exists in this country, even today. Companies want to be, as I said, there are different laws in different states. It is often astronomical for them to handle. They just want to get contractors, pay them by the hour. They work 40 hours a week. They simply pay them by the hour. It is the headache or the responsibility of companies like us, smaller companies, who take that responsibility on our heads to take care of these employees on our payroll. So this is the major reason. And if they have a 3-month or 6-month project, a short-term project, why should they hire them full-time, go through the paperwork, and then they're done after 3 months? So that's where companies want to hire these contractors. So they just get the work done like a freelancer. We see a lot of freelancers today. You see those jobs on Facebook, 99% scam jobs. Work from home, I'll pay you 2,000 rupees a day or 10,000 rupees a day. So these are, not all of them are fake, but then I see that 95% are fake. And it's like a freelance job or a contract. So this is the reason why they want to hire a contractor, aka consultant. We've been using the word consultant. Aka is nothing but also known as. I just put a short form, also known as a consultant. And in simple words, full-time, someone who will be hired by the client. Uh, hired by the client. That's why we are hire IT people. So they can come to us and hire information technology people. So that's where the name has come from. They come to us, they want to hire IT professionals for temporary or a full time. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis. So we have a job. The process is pretty simple. The workflow is very simple as 1, 2, 3. You have a job, you read the job, you understand the job description, understand what the client wants. So the client wants for example, a Java developer, and you are looking for a Java developer. Now the Java developer now there are other skills attached to it. Java developer with 10 years of financial industry domain experience. Oh, now I'm looking for a Java developer with financial industry. This is very, very important that we need to understand what is coming in. It's also important, as I said before, making that phone call, talking to 100 candidates. I would not go home. I have done this before. I have done that exercise for a number of years. I would not be happy when I go home. Hey, on my rooster, I have not made these 100 phone calls to candidates. Oh, I'm just declining myself. I'm not being successful because I have not done this. Imagine I made 100 calls a day. I'm talking to 2,000 candidates a month, at least. And what is your success? Imagine the spectrum, the dynamics of talking to 2,000 people, and what is the knowledge that you're gaining. I have learned everything from my candidates, thousands, tens of thousands of candidates that I've spoken in the last 18 years. People ask me, hey, you sit and read each day. No, I'm not so dumb, waste my time reading books for like 18 hours a day. I'm talking to these people, these highly educated candidates. I'm calling them. I just look at the job description. I find a matching candidate. I pick up that phone, first call the candidate, not waste my time emailing whatever. I'll email him later. This is where a lot of recruiters have failed. Still, they are failure. You have the potential to grow yourself. The world is at your fingertips. You are the judge. You can, grow yourself. How? Just call those candidates. Very simple. This is the secret of my success personally. I've always thought, it's the first thing is because you can meet them in person. It's the same thing. I used to work in New York City and people were in California. I'm not meeting them either. At least today we have Google, Zoom, video, WhatsApp video calls. We have a lot of these things. And don't ask candidates to come on. And if it's unnecessary, don't do any video calls. So that is the secret of the success. I'm pretty much happy. In 2 years, my income went almost 25-30 fold because I was practicing the same thing what I'm explaining you guys today. And we are here to help you. We are going to have discussions. We have a website that we have created. We have knowledge base. We will you can watch these videos under a course. Today's session and any other material for our upcoming sessions, and any questions you have. Always, you have to ask. Unless you ask, nobody's going to answer. If you're hungry, you need to ask your mom. I don't want to play the role of your mom or dad, but then you have to ask. Sit down and make, after this session, sit down and have a group discussion. Hey, what did we learn today? What did we not learn today? What is that we have to learn tomorrow? Okay, please. I'm not here to do a personality development or classroom sessions, but I'm more inclined towards talking to candidates. This is a shortcut. The more you call, the more you learn, the more you are successful. Okay, so I hope you understood the contract versus full-time. Then there is another side of the story. Uh, so we are, let's say, out of 10, 12, we're adding more people. If we have, it depends on your performance, depends on what you have learned. Then we'll try to dedicate you into one area of full-time recruitment only, which is a little complicated, slow job, which is often also referred to as a passive recruitment in for the full times. Don't get confused with those words on the internet. I'm sure you guys, some of you have done some research. We're not really headhunters. Headhunting is a different where you are hiring CTOs, CXOs like chiefs, vice presidents, those type of people. The head is the top person in that company. We're not the typical headhunters. We are recruiters. So don't get confused. What may Google. So try to stick to our sessions. Try to stick to these topics. It'll be very, and it's easier the tomorrow because you have this learning process at higher IT people. It is easier. As I said, we have trained hundreds and hundreds. There are a lot of mechanisms, a lot of processes that companies do follow today were created by us in the past, starting 17, 18 years ago, including the templates, everything that they use, their mechanism, the way they find candidates is created by us. So once we get into the sourcing and recruiting, I will also do sessions on where to find candidates. Is it just job boards? Today we have social media. We have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have WhatsApp. So we'll make it more easy experience as finding friends on WhatsApp, we'll find candidates on WhatsApp. Finding friends on Facebook, we'll find candidates, consultants on Facebook. Very simple. This is something to do with your day-to-day life, something to do with what you have done yesterday in your life at home. It's just that you're trying to make this, take it into a professional path where it gives you a lot of ability to make a lot of money. You decide in the next 1 year, what is that I want to be, what is that I want to make. You make that, rule of the thumb. Make those, talk to 100 candidates each day over the phone, you are going to be successful. In 2 years, you will be somewhere, but you can believe that, hey, this is what I've done in the last 2 years. Unknowingly, imagine 2,000 people a month, 24,000 people a year, 50,000 candidates you have spoken, which means business to the company and a reward to you and an incentive to you and a success to you more than that. And 50,000 people you have spoken in 2 years. Imagine the wealth of knowledge and information that will be ingrained in you. I've been stressing on this because I've seen a lot of people being a big failure, not following a very simple rule of talking to people. Communication is the key. You don't have to be a super duper communicator. We're not selling soap or some surf or some Colgate toothpaste. They need a job. The good news here, you're talking to a person who needs a job, and you are going to be responsible. You are going to be instrumental to find them a job. You're helping them get a job. You're also helping them with their livelihood. So you don't have to be exceptionally, what they say, I've seen people, hey, recruiters, no, my communication is not so great. I want to, chat with them, email with them. No, there is a necessity for the job seeker. Now, this is the only industry where service industry staffing, where everybody has a necessity. You don't have to create a necessity. Just like, somebody comes to me, they want to, sell something like I have a cell phone. They'll say, oh, I'll get you a new Bluetooth device. It is not a necessity. I already have my headset. Why should I buy an expensive Bluetooth device? That's where you have to sell something. We're not doing any sales. We're doing service. Your client has a necessity to hire a candidate. excuse me, the job seeker has a necessity to get a job. You have a necessity to do business with them. You have the everybody has a necessity, and if you do this well, there is a sense of cooperation. Everybody cooperates during the process. People don't ignore your phone calls. A job seeker needs a job. A client needs a candidate, a job seeker, and you do as well. And hiring people. So it's a win-win when your actions are good within this process. It's a win-win for everyone, and it's a professional environment. You're not dealing with some, labor, as I said. You're dealing with highly qualified, high-tech candidates. So just to rewind back into, I hope you guys have had a first-hand on who's a contractor, who's a full-time. So let's get into, I have one last slide here because I want to take a break and come back and see, not dump too much at the moment. We started at, it's about an hour that we began. So we'll take a half-hour break. I still have to look at what I'm going to cover. I'll talk to Harsh once this is done, and then we'll jump back in, or you just nurture what we've been talking last 1 hour. As a part of this, this is not the last slide for this intro. We still have more intros to come in. But then the introduction on who are clients and the in-depth intro of job market once again. So I think we covered this a little bit. One second. It's very important that once we start working, to understand these various job titles, roles, and skills. As I mentioned before, this SDLC, software development lifecycle for any project, if they're building a software, which could be an IT department at a company. A company might have, a large company may have human resources, finance, IT departments, and an IT department may have one project, but their one project is they're working on a website. Another project is they're working on an application for their employees, or one they're working on some other project for customer. So an IT department can have one or many projects. For example, Amazon might have 1 million projects, that each project requires a broad variety of personnel to handle their projects from scratch, ground zero inception, from planning, designing, development, and production. And there are some standard rules to this process. There might be additional rules or mechanisms or methods that are incorporated by the project managers. The project managers, they work with their architects, they work with their business analysts to build the project schema. From there, they start hiring senior project developers, senior project programmers. Then they have the junior project programmers, the developers, quality assurance, testing, designers, graphic designers, user interface designers, database administrators for the back end of the data, system administrators. When 50 people, 100 people are working, there needs to be somebody to handle that. Network administrators, so on and so forth. So these are typically people. Now subsection into, again, the skills and technologies, what we are referring to right now as Java, .NET, Python. There are so many, nobody is completely 100% perfect. There are so many languages, so many tools, so many skills, so many technologies. Yesterday somebody asked me something, I said, I've never heard about this. They have Ruby on Rails, Python, snakes, rats, and cats. So there are a lot of titles for their technologies companies are communities have created. There are open source which are free, like Java, open source, created by communities. There might be .NET, Microsoft, which is not free, created by companies like Microsoft, more commercial. So that's where we try to get exposed into. We probably do some, we'll probably work with Hertz and do some cards where we have understood, hey, these are the, when somebody, when there's a job from a client, which says, hey, I require a Python developer, then you suddenly start thinking, hey, where do I find the snake? So, that's something we need to be knowledgeable about. So as I said, uh, this could be very exhaustive in nature. I'd like to take one 2 hour session, get more info from our recruitment members. And we want to get some guest sessions, before, during the training session, not just the trainers, this boring speech that I do, like me, but then we will make it more interesting and fun to have 15-20 minute guest sessions from our senior recruitment members. They're pretty busy calling candidates. Once again, they're very busy calling candidates. We have to take their time. Most of them attain about 50 to 70 calls a day. I'm talking about the most successful people. Unfortunately, we do have people who still don't follow this. They will never be successful. So once again, 50 to 100 calls a day will make you success. You'll have a rewarding career. I will go back again to scratch. We'll do a recap, or we'll do a recap after 30 minutes. Right now, we'll take a break, 11:45. I'll come back at 12:15 and we'll do a recap. I will break this here, but then now the floor is open for any questions. We'll take questions if there are any, or we'll take a break. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. If there's anything you'd like to, I would be more than happy. That gives me a lot of motivation and spirit.
So no questions so far. All good so far.
All good for you, or for everyone? How do you know everyone's good?
No, at least for him. The Viplav, you have a question? What's it?
And your name is 5E87ACCB?
No, I just forgot to change the name. I'm new to this actually.
Yeah, I think we will be, I'll just stop or pause recording. Candidates are not really, worried about what your time is in India, because you have to refer to their time zone. You can always say Eastern time. Hey, it's 9:30 in New Jersey. I'm in the Eastern time zone. I work in the Eastern time zone. It's okay, you're working from India. You can tell them you're working from India. It doesn't matter. No longer a problem. And one important thing before we take a break, we will probably do a 5 or 10 minute session, or maybe longer, about the speech. Very important to speak very slowly especially when you're speaking with Americans. If you speak faster, most of us Indians, have the tendency to speak very fast in English. It's okay, but then when you're talking to Americans, because of the dialect or the accent, they will not be able to understand what you're trying to say. Very simple, right? It's very important to speak clearly and slowly. Don't try to have any fake accents, or try to impress someone. It's not really required. You be yourself, speak the way you can, but very, very slowly. If I say very, very slowly, no, this is how most Indians speak. English is good. But these days, last 15, 20 years, everyone's English is amazing. But then when it's between saying very slowly and very slowly makes a big difference. That's something they don't understand. So have the pace, practice to be clear and slow. This is even if you're talking to Indians. After being here for 20 years, right? When I talk to many of us recruiters, I don't understand what they're saying. I'm like, hey, calm down, slow down. But this is the most important exercise for us. We probably should have a drill. Actually, I think we make a point of this. We have to have a drill of, how, because we're trying to see if we can make those 50 to 100 calls a day to candidates. So your speech, you don't have to be an English professor. So don't be worried that, hey, it's a language of communication. Nobody's worried. The only problem, let me tell you, if you're in India, your English is bad with other Indians, they have a problem. Oh, this guy can't speak good English. Nobody has a problem here. Nobody cares. As long as you are able to communicate to them your message. You're able to talk to them about the job. You're able to explain to them what the job is. You're able to understand the candidate's requirements, what he wants. The candidate might say, no, I don't want to, hey, I don't want to be in California. I want to be in Texas. Oh, okay. Now Now next time the candidate, you have a job in Texas, you can recycle. You can go back to the same candidate. This is what you have to engulf. We're going to have a system where you're putting all these notes so you don't forget. If you talk to 100 people a day, or 50 people even, right? In 10 days, you'll forget what you've spoken to a person 5 days ago. So this is something we will try to help you with, where you can notate of, your daily actions during your recruitment, sourcing and recruitment efforts. So let's take a break, Harsh. We'll come back in about, I'll keep this open. I'll just mute myself. Come back in 12:15. I'll quickly check my.
Once we start sourcing, we will also get a fake resume. So how to know that the resume is fake?
That's a valid and an interesting question. That's going to be a full day session. We'll do first, we will do a training session. And then we'll jump into working with, when you start working hands-on with senior members, that's where you'll be exposed to understand, how to find that the resume. Now I'm sorry, who's this? What's your name?
Sir, Viplav.
Okay, Viplav. It's very important that he brought this up. Very interesting. This whole problem, right after understanding that's where the recruitment comes in. Now you have sourced a resume, which is, you have to find out if it's a fake. You pick up that phone and talk to candidate. That's where you will be getting more info on if this is real or fake. But we will get into the advanced stages of identifying these fake resumes. We'll have great sessions on fake resumes. And we have masters sitting out there at our company. Our recruitment members are pretty good with that. And personally, I'm very good with identifying this fake resumes. I have given sessions for even companies like Infosys, where I have educated their vendors, suppliers about how to identify these fake resumes. But definitely we will have this as a part of our we do have as a part of our course curriculum, Viplav, the agenda of this training, in other words. Okay, that's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, once again, welcome back. We'll try to take another 5 or 10 minutes for today. I don't want to have too much dumped in for today, but then let's do a quick recap on what we have spoken, and then you will be working with Harsh to have kind of a group session, like a mock sessions, group discussion, whatever you want to call it, and talk about, I'm going to share this PowerPoint with Harsh, So he will sit down with you to have some open discussions on what we have spoken. I would like to once again, I want to do a quick recap. There's a reason for this, because in the upcoming sessions, we might get a little more detailed in terms of, one of the questions asked by Viplav, something similar. So every process, every item has its own complexity. We want to ensure that you are apt with your learning process and be knowledgeable when you begin working in the open market, specifically working with candidates. Then eventually there's another extension to it. You will also be working with their employers. So, not at all times, that's where we would, do the session tomorrow. Not at all times we are just working with the candidates. Now, they may not be going into our payroll, which I'll explain. I'm just giving you a heads up. We might even, be working with companies where, companies like us who are, again, another company, subcontracting, we are now contracting with our client. There might be companies who might be contracting with us, subcontracting. So in the example of Modi Constructions, when you went to Modi Constructions, for say some electrical work, they might reach out to another company and XYZ Limited to get help for the electric work. So likewise, we would also be exposed to not just working with talking to candidates. These 100 phone calls may be divided into talking to candidates and their supplier companies as well. So once again, we are in the business of providing temporary and 95% contractual jobs, 5% permanent staffing. So we will handpick some of you to support the permanent staffing roles, which might look a little slow, but then very promising. And for those people, we'll have a different session on the process involved in working with full-time placements, which is a total different ballgame. So we spoke about the goals of these sessions. Knowledge, we are trying to acquire knowledge on US IT staffing market, the recruitment process, work permits, types of visas involved. We should refer to this as a work permit. There might be US citizens. By default, it's a work permit because they're US citizens. They might be born here. There might be people who have migrated from another country. Somebody like me who migrated a long time ago on a visa and became a US citizen today. And then there are green card holders. And then, the other types of visas, namely popular H-1B, who work with their employers, very popular visa. I'm sure most of you have heard this. There's a lot of chaos on the internet media during the Trump administration about the H-1B visas and with the COVID pandemic. And the satellite goals, the taxation, the terms that we use on a daily basis when we are dealing with candidates. And as I just mentioned about their employers. Then the negotiation skills, which goes into subsets of goals, retention, holding a candidate for a job, staying in touch with them, stuff like that. And then we jump into hands-on, then go live in a week or two. We've covered the time zones. USA introduction. So stay on top of the understanding the country. Do some Google search. You need to know, have some knowledge on what's happening, locally, in terms of where companies are located, large companies. We do have a list that we will share with states, and the list of companies, top companies, what they typically call Fortune 500. So these are large companies, like they're Fortune hundreds, 500, whatever. Companies like Amazon, Apple, IBM, Microsoft, Yahoo is not really doing so great, but then Google. So these type of companies, where they're located, it's pretty important to know. Just to give you a little background, most of these technology companies, high-tech companies, are in California, in Texas, in Seattle, California, Los Angeles, what they call a Big Apple, sorry, the Silicon Valley, and Seattle. It's a state called Washington. It's different from Washington, DC. It's a city name. One thing, remember, unlike India, US capitals are pretty small, except the Washington, DC. For New York State, New York City is not the capital. Albany is the capital. So these are little things you should know. US, it's a little different from, for Maharashtra, Mumbai's capital. Just like, Ahmedabad is not capital for Gujarat. Gandhinagar is. So likewise, capitals are pretty small entities, small towns or cities in the US. And then, try to understand the weather in those locations. So obviously, that's where you are getting a little, building that little rapport with candidates when you, hey, I just learned you have, it's 110 degrees. So remember, when I said 110 degrees, along with the language, here we use Fahrenheit for temperatures. When I said 110 degrees, it's Fahrenheit. It should be about 47, 48, do the math in centigrade. And when we talk to people, we don't say kilograms, we say pounds. And gallons versus liters, about 2.83 liters is a gallon. You can always Google. So a lot of things are the other way around. From a right-hand drive, it's a left-hand drive in the US. Even the switches are the other way around. If you put it down, you put it up. So I think from the British, whatever they've done, they have tried to reverse as much as they can. And when you are writing those emails, try to select your, when you set up your email boxes, select US English. There are certain spelling changes. Just to give an example, organization, ORGANISATION in British English is ORGANIZ, Z for Zad. Zad is called Z, organization. So these are little, spelling differences. So don't get annoyed. It's okay if you have used the British English, but then, I would avoid this. It's not something which is of, greater importance, but then those etiquettes while you are writing those emails stands you apart. Then they know that you are more localized. A lot of them, like color, COLOUR is COLOR. There are tons of them, but when you install, not install, when you select your base for the computer or your, whatever the applications you're using as the US English, if there's an option, it makes your life a lot easier to be more and more localized. Set up time zones. On your computer for EST at all times, just make sure. I think you should work with Harsh, and always, think EST, think of the US time zone when you're working. So when you come in, it's good morning. It's not good evening once again, my friends. So keep that in mind when you're talking to, when you pick up that phone. I'm sure you know this. Um, um, all of you will have uh, a volume of calls that you personally want to explore and make the best of your careers. Once again, making those phone calls is the key. So when you call them, you probably would say you call somebody and say, hey, good morning, right? You don't want to say, since it's evening or night for you, you don't want to say good night or good evening. So keep that in mind. Even midnight at 1 a.m. in India, which is only like 11:30 in the Eastern time, and about 7:30 or 8 o'clock in California in Central time. So I think Pacific time. I'm always confused with this myself. So you want to be sure that you are on top of this. You don't want to get confused. It is very, very important to get a first picture of the time zones, which is often a little confusing. You know, I'm confused after all these years. So stay on top of it. And you are in the multi-billion IT industry, the sky is the limit. So as much as you can do, it's what you want to do is how you want to grow. It's entirely up to you. You want to just be, oh yeah, you know, lazy, slow type person, slow, you know, like a snail, or you want to rapidly have that rapid penetration into your career. And rapid penetration is possible because you have so many people who are willing to help you, who are willing to train you, who are willing to answer any type of questions you may have during your day-to-day efforts. It's easy when you have experienced people who can support. Then you know you're learning on your own, which will take, if that's going to take a year, this is going to take a month. That's the importance of having surrounded by experienced people. Definitely in the recruitment area, we are the oldest sitting here, one of the you know, with long-term experience, what they typically call veterans in the industry. So we know what goes on. We're pretty clean. That was a great question by Vipal about the fake resumes, how to find them and not to find them, how to eliminate them, eliminating fake resumes, which would be an interesting, it's an exercise that we would want to work on. It's not simply we would talk about, you know, I show examples and complete it in 10-15 minutes. Now with to add to that, we will also be covering fake visas, fake work permits. So which goes in hand as a part and parcel for the, rather than fake resumes, let's call them fake candidates who have fake resumes and fake paperwork as well. They do that a lot. They have fake H-1Bs and they present fake green card copies. So there is a lot that goes into the entire fake process. So that's a good thing, good, that we will definitely cover. And once again, we are in the business of recruiting and placing IT consultants with our clients. And also, the business model is pretty straight and simple. IT consulting and contract staffing services nationwide. That's the stress at 95% of our work is staffing on a contract, also referred to as a contingency. There are few other words, but then I really don't like to jump in there. It'll be too much for today. But then when you start working, when you have that question, once you're on field, hey, somebody came to me, they said, you know, I see something I don't understand. Yeah, you know, we are here to help and to learn with you. It's a learning process for everyone sitting here, including myself and any of the trainers that are going to be upcoming to train you. It's a learning process. So nobody's, it's an ocean. Nobody's 100% perfect. So who are the IT consultants? Consultants who provide on-site, off-site, which is kind of a remote. Offsite is on-site is, somebody's, if there is Microsoft, they're actually working inside Microsoft Office, sitting there on their premises. This is on-site. Today we have remote, people are working remotely, sitting at home. You guys are working on site because you're in the Gandhinagar, whatever office right now. You are on site. I'm sitting at home today. I'm off site or remote. I'm not working at their site. Off site could be, in certain cases, they are, if there is a project at Microsoft, they're not actually providing on-site at Microsoft Office. They might be providing services from higher IT people offices, say New Jersey, DC, or somewhere else. That is usually off-site. Remote is, as all we know, is often referred to as the work from homes today. Remote can also be, we have a candidate who traveled to India, who's sitting in India providing those services to the same client in the US. So remote has its own different types of functions. So somebody who's not working at the client site is usually, let's refer to this as remote. So let's not go crazy with this. And our consultants are referred to as consultants, resources, contractors, employees, or subcontractors, etc., etc. And contract jobs, temporary project need, 3 months, 6 months, sometimes a month, sometimes 2 years, 3 years. The projects can get extended from an initial term. Let's say they start at 6 months, extension for another 6 months because they're still working, doing something, adding more stuff into the project, more requirements into the project, more modules to that project that can get extended. We have people under extensions for the last 5-6 years, but they are still temporary projects. The clients have the ability to close the project, scrap the project, and terminate that contractor at any point of time. Full time, we pick a candidate, client has a job, we send the candidate, we are done. We're not doing anything with them. But with the contractors, after they get placed, we are going to be working with them. They are going to be our employees. They are going to be on higher IT people's payroll. So as long as they complete one job, we might move them to another project. We continue to employ them. IT departments, software development life cycles, projects, we discussed before, broad varieties, unlimited. Right now, I should use the word unlimited because, there are so many, we can't count on our fingertips as opposed to 20 years ago. Then, when you start working, you'll probably get exposed into it. But then we would try to create you as a niche, focused, specific to technologies. So this is something we would align team members. So you're not really going crazy with, the kaleidoscope of skills and jobs, but we will be only trying to put you in a unit where, as I mentioned before, like Java, any 2 of you or 3 of you will only be working with Java consultants, Java developers, in other words. So you quickly grow in that area and quickly gain expertise, because the recruitment also involves, which I will not cover much today. Once we get into sourcing and recruitment, the fundamental job of a recruiter is to screen the candidates. When you source, you are putting yourself in their shoes. You become a job seeker yourself, thoroughly understand the job requirement, thoroughly understand the resume that you found, and see how best that resume is a match to your job requirement, assuming it's not a fake resume. And screening the candidate, that's the job of a technical recruiter. Oh, you're not interviewing them, you're screening them, asking them. So you have to have some knowledge. So we want you to be in one skill area. So you do your own research, watch some videos on YouTube, understand what it is, what goes around with it. In this classic example, Java, You know, some of you might be exposed into it. Then, you know, some of you might be into SAP. It's an ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, which covers a large employee, you know, companies to do everything inside for all the departments. So these are ERPs. There are many of them: SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, stuff like that. Um, and then this is something we, as I said, you know, we'll definitely cover more in the upcoming session in terms of jobs, technologies, and, you know, how you can get hands-on and become experts. This is something I have still not covered, so I'm going to leave this for today, this last slide. This is going to continue, but to give you a quick catch up, don't look at the title there, you know, it should be eliminated. We will get in there. Clients, vendors, subcontractors, layers, or third parties. This is something we're going to be talking tomorrow. How the functionality, how the functions, different functions work, and how we are involved during the process is something we will be talking tomorrow. Along with, we will cover the previous slide about the projects, the types of skills, and then we will also cover the work type visas, work permits, and the types of visas, then the tax terms. So that'll pretty much cover tomorrow. And good luck. Work with Harsh. I'm going to send him a copy of this. So have a group discussion. Talk about, you know, do a brainstorming. You know, we have had an hour session. We've spoken something for the last 1 hour. And do a brainstorming, do some homework, write your own notes, what you have understood, what is that you have not understood. Unless you do that, you're not going to get the gist of it. This is not a classroom or a college if you're completely a fresher, where, you know, you are doing this for to pass an exam and get a certificate. You're doing this to pass your life's exam. You're doing this to make a career. You're doing this to build yourself. You're doing this to be the best. I want to see that, you know, after a year or two, I want to see, you know, my team, people that, you know, where we have done this learning exercise are on top of the world. This is what we would like to see. And we'll do anything in our capacity to ensure, which is a win-win again, as I mentioned before, win-win for the client who has a necessity, win-win for you as an intermediary who's supporting or, you know, representing higher IT people. You'll be the, not just the backbone. I don't know if there's a front bone, but you will be one of them. So you are, you know, playing so many, you are supporting the entire ecosystem of what is happening here. So it is very important to understand each and every item. Otherwise, that we have learned in 20 years, we're trying to get you dumping all this knowledge within the next couple of weeks, which is very interesting. And please stay focused and start thinking, you know, go home even when you're sleeping, just, you know, think about this. I always do that. I take a recap of what was done all day, do it the way you like it, and take a carry back. That's where you will learn. You just, oh, you know, my time is done, I want to sleep. Then you're not really enhancing your career. This is my personal experience. And I want to take examples of, you know, there might be other successful people in the world. They might have different mechanisms how they have been successful. This is the success. This is the story behind my success personally. So we'll get into this last slide tomorrow, which would be the first slide, because we will be talking definitely about client. Harsh, I'm going to delete this slide. I'm going to send you a copy of this day one. And please continue for the next 2 hours at least.
Yeah.
And see what they have actually learned.
Sure.
All right, guys, thank you. And we will connect tomorrow, same time. We'll try to be a little early tomorrow, maybe about 9:30. So I have, you know, I can take care of other things. We'll run from 9:30 to 11:30, 12:30. Yeah, 9:30 to 12:30. Tomorrow is going to be a 3-hour session for sure, because there's a lot to talk about. it gets, stay focused tomorrow. Don't miss the session tomorrow, because we won't be able to. I know there might be a recording, but then, it is going to be a lot of Q&A because of the work permits, clients, vendors. You see the subcontractors, layers. It looks so confusing, right? It's a tree. The tree function, we try to break this down into pieces and make sure you have clearly understood each and every part of this whole system, the system that is in the US. So you should never miss you should not miss the session tomorrow. So 3 hours, we'll do some discussions. Once it's done, today Harsh is going to do. Tomorrow I want to do a direct discussion with one-on-one on the Zoom call, so others can also engage and learn from the goods and the bads. Thank you, and have a great day. I'm not saying great night, because you are working in the US time zone. And think about, what does it take to do those 100 calls? If you spoke to a candidate for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, let's say on average, 300 minutes, about 5 hours or 4 hours. How best you can use your ability and your skills to understand the candidates. Your mind should be focused on calls, phone calls. Rule number 1, phone calls. Rule number 10, phone calls. That's it. Unless you do that, trust me, you will never be successful. All right, guys. Thank you, and have a great day. Good luck learning. Bye now.